Welcome to the Regenesis Health Podcast, Unconventional Paths to Wellness and Root Cause Healing. I'm James.
And I'm Meredith. It's great to be here, ready to explore some, really interesting ideas today.
Absolutely. And just before we jump in, we need to share our standard reminder.
Of course.
This podcast is not affiliated with the authors of the books, sources, or the concepts mentioned. We do not endorse claims within these books or sources.
And very importantly, we are legally required to advise you, our listeners, to consult your doctors or a qualified healthcare professional before attempting any cleanse or making significant changes to your health regimen.
Exactly. What might work wonders for one person may not be suitable or even safe for someone else. Always check first.
Crucial advice for anyone taking charge of their health.
Okay, so today we are setting out to explore a really fascinating area within complementary health. It's called the body talk system. Our goal here is to really unpack its core ideas, get into how they say it works, look at what it claims to help with.
Also, importantly, to look at it from different angles, the scientific viewpoints, the potential limitations.
Right. We want to give you a clear, well-rounded picture of this unique approach to well-being so you can really understand its principles and, weigh the claims for yourself.
Okay, let's get started then.
Understanding the body talk system origins and core identity.
So to really get what body talk is about, we first need to look at its basic philosophy. It's described as a holistic therapy.
Right, and the foundation is this strong belief that our bodies, all living things really, have this amazing built-in ability to heal themselves.
It's presented as this complex system that kind of weaves together different threads, elements from ancient Eastern practices and modern Western medicine ideas, too.
All with the goal of helping people heal and grow on a personal level.
And what seems to make it stand out is how it's designed as a whole healthcare system.
So it's a key phrase they use.
Yeah, it's not about just tackling one specific symptom, like a headache, or focusing on a particular disease label.
No, instead, body talk looks at the whole person.
Yeah.
Your physical body, sure, but also your emotions, your mental state, your unique physiology, everything.
The aim is overall well-being across all those levels. This perspective really does set it apart from maybe more conventional ways of looking at health, which often focus just on the problem area.
It suggests a much more integrated view of us as human beings, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And the story behind how it started is pretty fascinating, too. It involves the founder, Dr. John Veltheim.
Ah, yes. Tell us about him.
Well, he developed body talk back in the 1990s. He's Australian, and his background is incredibly diverse. I mean, really diverse.
Oh, like how?
He's a chiropractor, but also trained as an acupuncturist and osteopath. He studied philosophy. He's even a Reiki master.
Wow, that's quite a list already.
And there's more. He did postgraduate work in things like kinesiology, the study of body movement, bioenergetic psychology, sports medicine, even theology and counseling.
That's an incredible range of expertise. You can see how that might lead to a system that tries to connect different fields.
Exactly. But it wasn't just his academic interests. A really severe personal health crisis was apparently the key turning point.
What happened?
In the early 90s, he got incredibly sick. It was a strain of the Epstein-Barr virus, and it hit him hard. Serious liver damage, chronic fatigue that was debilitating, constant pain. It really impacted his life.
That sounds awful. Did he seek treatment?
Oh, yes. He tried everything available, conventional Western medicine, traditional Chinese acupuncture, different herbal remedies, but nothing seemed to really work long-term. His condition just persisted, leaving him exhausted.
So what changed?
Well, this is where the story gets quite dramatic. He apparently encountered this unique, kind of simple technique. It involved interacting with a small sample of his own blood and a specific way of tapping on his head.
Okay. That sounds unusual.
It does. But according to the Body Talk System's own accounts, this single procedure reportedly cleared the virus from his system in just 3 days.
3 days after struggling for so long.
That's the story. A huge turnaround in his health. And this experience, this personal transformation, is what they say, really fueled his passion for researching and developing alternative approaches, which eventually led to the Body Talk System.
Wow. That personal element definitely adds a layer to its origin story.
It really does. And as his health got better, he apparently threw himself into refining the system and getting the word out.
So how did it grow from his personal experience to what it is now?
Well, he moved to Florida in 1998, which helped him develop and teach it more widely. Then, just 2 years later, in 2000, he and his wife, Esther Veltheim, co-founded the International Body Talk Association. the IBA.
Ah, the IDA. I've seen that mentioned.
Right. And since then, it's really grown globally. Today, the IBA has trained practitioners and instructors in, I think, over 50 countries worldwide.
That's quite a reach. It shows there's definitely interest out there.
For sure. And it's not just about going to see a practitioner for a session. They also develop something called Body Talk Access.
Body Talk Access, what's that?
It's like a simplified version. It's designed to give everyday people some simple energy-based techniques they can use for self-healing.
Oh, like things you can do yourself.
Exactly. Techniques you could use at home or at work, even at school. It makes some of the core body talk ideas accessible for just daily well-being maintenance.
That's interesting. It puts more power in the individual's hands, doesn't it? Giving people practical tools.
That seems to be a core part of the philosophy, yes. Empowering self-care.
The philosophical heart of body talk, innate wisdom and energetic communication.
So let's dig into the philosophy a bit more. Right at the heart of body talk is this idea of innate wisdom.
Innate wisdom. What exactly do they mean by that?
It refers to something that's just inherent in us. Our body's natural, profound ability to heal itself and keep itself in balance.
Okay, like everyday examples.
Think about it. You get a cut on your finger. You don't consciously tell your body how to clot the blood or grow new skin, do you?
No, it just happens.
Exactly. Or when you get over a cold, your immune system is doing all this complex work behind the scenes. That's the innate wisdoms they're talking about. It's the body's own intelligence.
Right. So how does body talk work with that?
Well, body talk doesn't try to diagnose diseases in the way a doctor would. Instead, the goal is to figure out where the body's natural balance has been disrupted, and then gently help restore that balance. By doing that, the idea is you empower that innate wisdom to do its job properly, addressing imbalances, easing symptoms, and hopefully creating lasting health.
So it's less about fixing something directly and more about supporting the body's own ability to fix itself?
Precisely. It shifts the focus from fighting illness to enabling wellness from within.
Which then brings up a really important question, doesn't it? If we have this amazing innate wisdom, why doesn't it always keep us perfectly healthy? What gets in the way? Why do we get sick?
And that leads directly into Body Talk's core theory about illness. They see health not just as, not being sick, but as a state where everything inside you is communicating perfectly. A smooth flow of information between every cell, every organ, even your thoughts and emotions.
So health equals good internal communication.
Right. And illness, conversely, is seen as a breakdown or a disruption in those communication lines within what they call the body-mind complex.
Body-mind complex. I like that term. It emphasizes the connection.
Exactly. It's not just the physical body. It includes our mind, our emotions, our memories. Everything's integrated.
So what causes these communication breakdowns?
Stress, basically, in all its forms. Physical stress from an injury or maybe just bad posture. Emotional stress from relationships, past trauma, work pressure, and environmental stress, too. Toxins, pollution, things like that. All these stressors can interfere with the body's internal communication systems.
How do they describe that interference?
They often use the analogy of blown fuses in an electrical circuit.
Ah, okay. Like a circuit breaker trips.
Yeah, something like that. These stresses create weakened or broken communication links. So parts of the body-mind complex can't talk to each other effectively.
And that blocks the flow of information needed for healing.
That's the idea. It hinders the body's natural self-repair mechanisms. The symptoms we feel, pain, fatigue, whatever it is, are seen as just the outward signs of these internal communication problems.
Interesting. So it's about finding and fixing those blown fuses.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And that ties into their concept of energetic circuitry.
Energetic circuitry. Tell me more about that.
Body Talk suggests that every single part of us, every cell, atom, organ, isn't just physically linked, but is also in constant, complex, energetic communication with everything else.
Beyond just nerves and blood vessels.
Way beyond. It includes things like meridians, those energy pathways from traditional Chinese medicine that carry Qi or life force.
Okay.
And it also includes the electromagnetic frequencies our body naturally generates, brain waves, the heart's electrical field, nerve impulses. It's a much broader view of internal communication.
So if these energetic circuits get blocked or damaged,
then the body's innate wisdom can't properly direct the healing process, according to the theory. The information just isn't getting where it needs to go.
So a Body Talk session is aimed at
identifying those specific weakened or broken energetic circuits and then helping to reestablish clear communication along those pathways.
And by restoring that flow.
The claim is that the body can quickly get back to its natural healing rhythm and repair itself more effectively.
Okay, that brings us back to that whole healthcare idea you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fundamental, addressing the whole person, not just the symptoms.
Because everything is connected.
Right. The thinking is that every single thing you've experienced in your life, childhood stuff, recent events, your lifestyle choices, your genes, your personal history, it all feeds into your current state of health.
So it has to be personalized. You can't just have a standard protocol for, say, back pain.
Exactly. It leads to a very individualized approach. A practitioner might explore things that seem totally unrelated to your main complaint.
Like what?
Maybe an old emotional upset, or a food you eat regularly, or even a physical injury from years ago that you thought was healed. They're looking for the deeper, interconnected root causes of the imbalance.
So they're not just asking what's wrong with your back, but more like, what story is this whole system, including the back pain, trying to tell?
That's a good way to put it. It really invites you to look at your health from a much, much broader perspective. It's not just about fixing parts. It's about harmonizing the whole system.
It definitely makes you think about health in a different way.
Blending traditions, from ancient wisdom to quantum claims.
So beyond this core philosophy, what really seems to make Body Talk stand out is how it tries to blend these ancient ideas with, well, what it presents as modern science.
Yes, it's quite an ambitious synthesis. It explicitly draws inspiration from a lot of older traditions.
Like what sort of traditions?
Well, principles from Hatha Yoga, focusing on that mind-body connection and energy flow. Concepts from traditional Chinese medicine, especially around meridians and energetic balance. Ayurveda, the ancient Indian system, also feeds into its holistic view, considering individual constitution and lifestyle.
Right.
And even deeper philosophical influences, like Advaita Vedanta, that's a school of Hindu thought exploring consciousness and the nature of reality. It suggests a connection between our individual self and a sort of universal consciousness.
Wow. So it's pulling from yoga, TCM, Ayurveda, philosophy, quite a mix.
It is. It's an attempt to bridge that timeless wisdom with a contemporary understanding of health.
And on the contemporary side, that's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit controversial. It claims to integrate modern scientific understanding.
Yes, and the claims here are very broad. They reference fields like neuroscience, trying to understand how brain function, memory, perception all impact health. They talk about epigenetics, that fascinating idea that our lifestyle, environment, even thoughts can actually change how our genes are expressed, turning genes on or off.
Right. That's a huge area of research now.
Absolutely. Then there's psychoneuroimmunology, the study of how your mind, nervous system, and immune system are all constantly talking to each other.
Okay.
They also mention information science, framing health as information flow. Dynamic systems theory, which is a mathematical way to look at complex changing systems, is used to model the body.
So they're referencing neuroscience, epigenetics, PNI, information science, systems theory.
And the founder, Dr. Veltheim, is apparently always trying to incorporate the latest findings from these fields into the body talk system.
It does raise a big question, though, doesn't it? How do all these incredibly different things, ancient philosophy, modern neuroscience, systems theory, how do they actually fit together in one system? It sounds incredibly complex.
It's a very ambitious scope, definitely, trying to weave thousands of years of thought and science into one framework.
And this leads to some of its most, let's say, unique claims. They call it a consciousness-based healthcare system.
Asserting that consciousness itself is key to healing.
And they use models like the dynamic systems model, seeing the body as self-organizing.
And the holographic model, the idea that every part contains information about the whole, like a hologram.
Right, but then it gets even more specific where they bring in quantum physics.
Yes, this is a major point, and often a point of criticism.
They talk about things like the observer effect from quantum mechanics.
Right, the idea that observing something changes it at the quantum level.
Okay.
And wave-particle duality particles acting like waves sometimes.
And entanglement, that weird connection between distant particles.
Exactly. Entanglement and non-locality, the idea of instantaneous connections over distance. These specific quantum concepts are often brought up, especially to try and explain how distance healing sessions might work.
Distance healing. So they claim Body Talk can work even if the practitioner and client aren't in the same room.
Yes. The idea, drawing on these quantum concepts, is that the practitioner and client can become energetically entangled, allowing changes in one to affect the other, regardless of physical distance.
That's quite a leap, isn't it? From subatomic particles to human healing across distances.
It is a significant leap, and it's a core part of their theoretical explanation, but also, as we'll discuss, a major area where mainstream science raises serious questions.
The body talk methodology techniques in practice.
Okay, so let's talk about what actually happens in a body talk session. How does it work in practice?
Right, the techniques.
Well, the overall approach is non-invasive, very gentle, and it generally follows what they call the ABCs.
ABCs?
Ask, balance, and communication. That's the basic flow. It's meant to be interactive, working with the body's own intelligence. The practitioner is more like a facilitator.
Okay, let's bring that down. What's the ask phase?
This is where they try to figure out what the body needs. It mainly relies on something called neuromuscular biofeedback.
Which is more commonly known as?
Muscle testing. You often see it in applied kinesiology as well.
Right, okay. How does that work in body talk?
The idea is the practitioner can ask the body questions, either silently or out loud, and get answers by checking muscle responses, usually testing the strength of an arm muscle.
So they apply a little pressure.
Exactly. And they observe if the muscle stays strong or weakens slightly. This subtle change is interpreted as a yes or no from the body's subconscious.
Like having a conversation directly with the body, bypassing the conscious mind.
That's the concept, trying to uncover hidden imbalances, physical, emotional, energetic, that maybe you're not even aware of, or that you might rationalize away.
So they'd ask things like, is there an issue with the liver, or is there stored emotional stress related to X?
Precisely. It's a systematic process of questioning to pinpoint the body's priorities for healing and the specific connections or links that need attention. It's a very unique form of dialogue.
Okay, so once they've asked and identified a priority using muscle testing, what comes next? The balance and communication.
Right. This part mainly involves specific tapping procedures.
Tapping. Where?
Usually on the head and the chest over the sternum. This technique actually has roots in an old hatha yoga method, apparently focused on bringing the mind's awareness to specific areas.
So what's the rationale for the tapping?
It's quite specific. First, the practitioner identifies the areas or the energetic links needing repair based on the muscle testing. The client might lightly touch these spots, or the practitioner does.
Okay.
And the practitioner gently taps the client's head. The idea is this stimulates the brain, focuses its attention on the imbalance that was identified. It's like waking up the brain to the issue and telling it to start the repair process for that blown fuse or broken communication link.
Right, get the brain involved. And then the chest tapping.
After the head, they tap lightly over the sternum near the heart. This step is considered really important. It's believed to store the new balance, the corrected information, within what they call the heart energy complex.
Store it, like saving a file on a computer.
Kind of. The idea is to lock the changes into the body's deep cellular memory, making them lasting and integrated throughout the whole system.
Interesting. So head tapping wakes the brain up, chest tapping saves the changes.
That's the general idea. Sometimes they might also tap on the navel area. This is thought to help harmonize the shifts with the gut brain, the nervous system and our digestive tract, integrating the changes even more deeply.
It really suggests a strong belief in the body's ability to reorganize itself and integrate new information for healing, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's all about facilitating that self-organizing capacity.
You mentioned specific techniques. Is there one that's particularly important?
Yes. The cortices technique is considered one of the most fundamental in the whole system.
The cortices, like the brain cortices.
Exactly. It's so central, it's often taught and used on its own, even outside a full body talk session.
What's its main purpose?
It's all about balancing the two hemispheres of the brain. The theory is that the brain works electromagnetically, and stress or trauma can cause those blown fuses we talked about, disrupting communication between different brain areas or between the left and right sides.
So the cortices technique aims to fix those internal brain communication issues.
Yes, to repair the fuses, bring more balance and coherence between the hemispheres, and improve overall brain function electromagnetically.
How is it done? Is it complicated?
No, the procedure itself is quite simple. The practitioner usually places one hand on the back of the client's head and uses the other hand to gently tap specific points along the midline of the head, from front to back.
And this tapping does what?
It's believed to send signals that help bridge the hemispheres, reopening those communication pathways. And then, like other techniques, they usually tap the chest afterwards to help store or integrate those neurological changes.
What kind of benefits do they claim for this cortices technique?
Oh, quite a range. Things like improved mental clarity, better focus and concentration, enhanced cognitive function, more emotional balance, even better coordination sometimes.
And it's safe for everyone.
It's considered very gentle and non-invasive. So yes, they say it's suitable for all ages, from babies to the elderly. It's even specifically mentioned for helping children with learning difficulties or special needs, like dyslexia. The claim is it can help reset certain brain functions related to laterality and processing.
The overall goal sounds like making the brain work more efficiently.
That's a good summary. Better neurological health overall.
Now, you also mention identifying links and priorities. How does that fit in? It sounds crucial for making it personalized.
It absolutely is. This is where the individual nature of body talk really comes through. Practitioners don't just pick techniques randomly.
They have a system.
They use a comprehensive protocol chart, yes. But the actual flow of the session, what gets addressed and in what order, is supposed to be guided by the client's own innate wisdom.
Access through that muscle testing again.
Exactly. Those yes-no answers dictate the priorities. And this is key. What the client thinks is their main problem, maybe chronic shoulder pain, might not be what the body's innate wisdom wants to address first for the best long-term healing.
So the body might say, actually, we need to deal with this old emotional stress first, even if the person came in for shoulder pain.
Precisely. The practitioner acts like a guide, using the muscle testing to uncover the specific sequence of connections, the links that need balancing. It forms a unique formula for that person in that moment.
A formula the body reveals, rather than one the practitioner imposes.
That's the idea. They see it as uncovering an existing formula the body already knows. Once these links and their priority are identified, they're usually briefly explained to the client.
And then the tapping follows.
Yes, the tapping on the head and heart then activates the brain and stores the corrections along those specific highlighted pathways.
So no two sessions would ever be the same, even for people with similar symptoms.
Highly unlikely, because the underlying communication breakdowns and the body's priorities can be so different from person to person. Each session is meant to be completely tailored.
Claimed benefits and wide scope of application.
Okay, so we've talked about the philosophy and the techniques. What about the results? What kind of benefits do body talk practitioners actually claim the system can deliver?
Well, the range is pretty extensive. They list a wide spectrum of issues it supposedly helps with.
Like physical things?
Yes, things like chronic pain, reducing allergies, improving digestive problems, helping with ongoing fatigue.
What about mental or emotional health?
That too. It's cited for helping with post-traumatic stress, supporting people with depression and anxiety, and even improving sleep for those with insomnia.
So it covers quite a bit of ground: physical, mental, emotional.
It really does. It's presented as a system aiming for broad overall well-being, not just fixing one specific thing.
And beyond tackling specific problems, are there claims about just general improvements in health?
Oh yes, definitely. People report things like having significantly more energy, not just less tired, but a deeper kind of vitality.
Okay.
Big emphasis on stress reduction and deep relaxation, too. The idea is it helps calm the nervous system, shifting people out of that constant fight or flight mode.
Which many people seem to be stuck in these days.
Exactly. They also talk about emotional healing, gaining more mental clarity, helping people work through difficult emotions like anxiety or fears, maybe getting a new perspective on old traumas.
What else?
Claims around boosting immune resilience so the body can better fight off illness. Promoting digestive harmony by addressing that gut-brain connection.
Right.
And interestingly, even enhancing athletic performance.
Really? How?
By optimizing the body's energy systems, supposedly leading to better coordination, quicker recovery times after exertion, and improved mental focus during sports or exercise.
Wow. The scope is just huge.
Yeah.
From allergies to athletic performance, it aims to influence so many different areas.
It's incredibly broad, suggesting a potential for rebalancing the entire person, not just isolated parts.
And who is it suitable for? Is it only for people who are already sick?
No, a key point they make is its inclusivity. It's considered suitable for pretty much everyone, any age. Infants, toddlers, teenagers, adults, seniors.
Regardless of their health situation.
Apparently so. Whether someone is generally healthy or dealing with complex conditions, its non-invasive nature is a big part of that. No needles, no drugs, no forceful manipulation.
That makes sense. And do they claim results are fast?
That's often mentioned as a plus. Many people report noticing shifts or improvements relatively quickly, although experiences obviously vary.
And how does it fit with regular medicine?
It's generally positioned as a complementary therapy, meaning it can be used alongside conventional medical treatments, not necessarily as a replacement.
So someone might use it while also seeing their doctor and taking prescribed medication.
Yes, exactly, to offer an extra layer of support. Or some people just use it for general stress management and maintaining overall health, even if they don't have a specific major issue.
So it seems quite flexible in how people can use it.
Very much so. It can fit into different health approaches, whether you're targeting something specific or just aiming for better baseline wellness.
Critical perspectives, safety, and limitations.
Okay, so we've covered the claims and the proposed benefits. Now we really need to shift gears and look at the critical perspectives, the safety aspects, and the limitations.
Right, the other side of the coin. Let's start with safety. What do proponents say?
They consistently emphasize that body talk is extremely gentle and non-invasive. They state there are no known contraindications.
Meaning it's safe for basically anyone.
That's the claim, including pregnant women, babies, the elderly, people with serious health conditions. A key point they make is about what happens if a technique is done wrong.
Oh, what do they say?
They argue that if a practitioner misidentified a priority or performed a technique incorrectly, the worst outcome would simply be nothing. No effect. It wouldn't actually cause harm.
So ineffective at worst, but not dangerous.
That's the assertion. This perceived safety is definitely part of its appeal, especially for parents or people wary of interventions. And as we mentioned, it's promoted as complementary, working alongside conventional medicine, not against it.
Okay. But now for the criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
What are the main concerns raised about body talk?
Well, a major one, especially from the scientific community, is that while it's growing in popularity, it's still relatively new compared to established medical practices.
And the evidence.
That's the core issue. There's a significant lack of robust, high-quality, independent scientific evidence to really back up its foundational theories, how it supposedly works, and many of the broad health claims it makes.
So lots of anecdotal reports, maybe, but not enough rigorous studies.
Exactly. Critics argue that for body talk to gain wider acceptance in healthcare, beyond just a complementary role, its methods and effects need to be properly tested and validated through solid scientific research.
Is there criticism about its explanations too?
Yes. There's a call for it to integrate more established concepts from basic sciences like physiology and anatomy into its explanations, rather than relying so heavily on energetic concepts that are harder to measure or prove scientifically. The scientific method demands more empirical validation.
Okay. And that brings us back to the quantum physics connection, right? That seems like a big point of contention.
It really is. As we said, Body Talk calls itself consciousness-based quantum healthcare and uses terms like entanglement and the observer effect.
But how does mainstream science view that?
Generally, very skeptically. The consensus among physicists and other scientists is that applying these quantum concepts directly to large, warm, wet biological systems like the human body is pseudoscientific.
Pseudoscience.
The term often used is technobabble, using scientific-sounding words without a proper scientific basis or understanding of what they actually mean in physics. Quantum effects are generally relevant at the tiny subatomic scale under very specific controlled conditions, like extreme cold.
Not really conditions found in the human body.
Not at all. Scientists argue that things like cells, organs, the whole body are just too big and operate at too high a temperature for these specific quantum phenomena to be the dominant factors governing health in the way Body Talk suggests.
So using terms like quantum healing is seen as misleading.
By many in the scientific community, yes. They see it as misusing terminology, which can undermine real scientific understanding and potentially confuse people, maybe even discouraging them from seeking evidence-based medical care when needed.
It really highlights that critical thinking piece, doesn't it? How do you tell the difference between real science and terms just used out of context, especially when you're talking about something as important as health?
It's a huge challenge for the public, absolutely.
And the criticisms don't stop at the quantum stuff, right? There were some pretty specific and maybe concerning claims made by the founder.
Yes, particularly in the earlier days. There are references to claims made by Dr. Veltheim about the cortices technique, for example.
What kind of claims?
Assertions that it could be used by paramedics or medical staff to instantly bring trauma victims out of shock or even stop arterial bleeding.
Wow, that sounds potentially very dangerous if misunderstood.
Exactly. Critics point out the serious risk if untrained people tried to use it in an emergency instead of standard first aid, or if it caused any delay in seeking proper medical help for life-threatening situations.
And is there any scientific validation for those kinds of dramatic claims? Stopping arterial bleeding with tapping.
None whatsoever. Those kinds of major medical interventions require solid, peer-reviewed evidence from clinical trials, and it simply doesn't exist for these applications of body talk. Claims like that, if taken literally and misapplied, could have devastating consequences. It underscores why you absolutely must rely on qualified medical professionals for serious health issues.
Definitely. So, wrapping up the critical side, what's the bottom line on the scientific evidence overall? Is there any research?
There has been some. As mentioned in Body Talk's own materials, there was one preliminary study looking at chronic pain.
And what did it find?
It did report some statistically significant improvements for the Body Talk group compared to controls in areas like pain levels, anxiety, and satisfaction with life roles.
Okay, so that's something.
It's a start, perhaps an exploratory look, but according to standard scientific criteria, it's nowhere near enough. To establish effectiveness convincingly, you need multiple, larger, more rigorous, independent clinical trials.
With proper control groups, blinding if possible, enough people to get reliable results.
All of that. The current evidence base is generally considered insufficient by conventional medical standards to support many of the broad claims made. Personal stories and preliminary studies are one thing, but they don't meet the threshold for scientific proof needed for widespread medical acceptance. Provocative thought wrap-up.
Okay, so we've explored a lot today. The origins, the philosophy, the techniques, the claims, and the criticisms surrounding body talk. Where does this leave us, as people trying to navigate our own health and wellness journeys?
Well, body talk clearly represents this really interesting mix, doesn't it? Ancient healing ideas blended with modern concepts, all framed through this unique lens of energy and internal communication. It definitely pushes us to think about our bodies and well-being in maybe unconventional ways.
It does challenge standard thinking.
And while the mainstream scientific world is still asking for more solid proof for systems like body talk, that core idea it promotes that our bodies have this amazing built-in capacity to heal that really resonates with a lot of people, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a very empowering idea.
And maybe, regardless of whether you subscribe to the specifics of body talk or any other particular system, that underlying message is valuable, thinking about the body not just as a machine with parts that break,
but as this incredibly complex, interconnected intelligence system, influenced by everything, our thoughts, emotions, environment, history.
Exactly.
And perhaps that's the real food for thought here for you, the listener. Whatever path you explore, maybe just cultivating a more holistic view of your own body-mind complex, really respecting that innate intelligence and wisdom it holds. Maybe that in itself is a powerful step towards well-being.
It certainly invites us to look beyond just the symptoms and consider the deeper connections within ourselves and how we interact with the world. A different perspective, for sure.
Thank you to all the listeners for being here today, and we look forward to sharing this time with you again soon.